Once again, it's that time, ladies and gentlemen. It is the top 10 best films of 2021. And again, once again, this year it was a problem to narrowing it down just to 10. We managed to do that through our very scientific process, which we would explain to you, but you'd never understand it. Without further ado, let's get to it. Number 10. We're starting this list off with Ryosuke Hamaguchi's Drive My Car. Such an interesting and explorative film, which is way more than what the title would have you believe and what it would imply. It's more than just some road trip movie. Really, it's a penned descriptor of love and loss and grief and how to handle all these things. And one other thing I love about it is how Hamaguchi handles the trauma and how his attention and understanding of the details makes the characters and the narrative so much more strong, and really allows the slow burn of this very, very long movie to resonate with the audience. I think our very own James Schneider said it best when he called it a profoundly meditative ride through the psyches and poetic undertones left by the crimson streak of our main character's vibrant red car. I think he nailed that. Either way, you guys should check out this Best Picture nominated film immediately if you can. If it's playing near you, do it, because it's definitely worth the ride. Number 9. When myself and Shay saw this one back in May at the critics screening, we knew immediately that this film was something that we had to have witnessed together and witnessed in a theater, and that is Lin-Manuel Miranda's Broadway musical turned movie directed by John M. Chu, In the Heights. What an incredible journey through Washington Heights we take with Uznabe and his crew, his merry band of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and various other Latino heritages that inhabit the borough that is Washington Heights. I freaking loved this movie. The music is, of course, fantastic and stellar. All the performances are excellent. I thought that Anthony Ramos deserved more recognition for his unbelievably great turn as Uznabe. If you haven't checked this one out, it is on HBO Max right now, and it's one of the best, not just musicals of the year, but one of the best movies of the year. And if you haven't seen our best musicals of the year list, you should check that one out. It's somewhere down in our YouTube channel, and it's worth your time. Either way, from the simple narrative stories, the A plot was great, the B plot's even better, and then there's a C plot that also doesn't muck up anything. The fact that you can have 3 little plot points and all of them are so eloquently put together really speaks volumes to the script, which was an adaptation by frequent Lin-Manuel collaborator Chiara Alegría Juedes. I think that her script is really, really well done. I think that John M. Chu's direction was spot on for what this needed to be. Check this one out ASAP, guys. For sure. Number 8. Well, would you looky here? Denny Villeneuve finds himself on our best of year end list again, and this time it's for his part 1 of Dune, the Warner Brothers / HBO Max release that really, really set fire to the argument as to whether Warner Brothers was making the right decisions by releasing these films on HBO Max, because quite frankly, I saw this one on HBO Max, and I saw it as part of a screener thanks to Warner Brothers, and both times I watched it, it was still very, very good, even on the 75-inch TV that I watched it on. Regardless, this is an event film, and in a pandemic like this, where we're so short of actual event films, sans one of the other films on this list, it was really refreshing to be there and to experience this thing. It is a little overly long at 2.5 hours, but it's no longer than, Drive My Car, and it's a very different film from that one. I thought Timothée Chalamet was very good. Rebecca Ferguson and Oscar Isaacs are excellent as well. I thought that the casting was one of the biggest stars of the film. If you haven't had a chance to check this one out, I don't believe it's on HBO Max back yet, but it is on Blu-ray and DVD, I believe, so check that one out as soon as possible. It's one of the biggest surprises for me. I knew I was going to like it, but I didn't expect to like it as much as I really did. Number 7. You want to talk about a movie that I did not expect to see on my year-end list? We're talking about Spider-Man Homecoming. which I think perhaps might be my favorite, or one of the best, and one of the best simultaneously, Marvel films that's ever been put out. And it's certainly the second best Spider-Man film to ever grace our screens. I still think Raimi's second is the better of the 5 films. Is that 5, 6, 7, 8 films that have come out under the Spider-Man guise? One of the biggest things for me was, and this is spoiler alert, because if you haven't seen the film by now, you're one of the 9 people who haven't, seen it because it's made like $1 bajillion. I really think that the whole opening that multiverse up, and from the looks of the trailer, it looks like Doctor Strange, Multiverse Madness, or whatever it's called, is going to unlock that further. I think really unlocking that allows you to be so flexible with your storytelling and to kind of make everything seem less like a Deus Ex Machina or a story contrivance, and really just speak to what's going on. But I do worry about them using that as a plot armor of sorts, because they already have a problem with not killing off their characters. Regardless, Tom Holland once again shines. Zendaya shines. Everybody shines in this one. I really loved what I saw out of Willem Dafoe, and he's meant to be the Green Goblin. He's just meant to be that character. Alfred Molina, once again, brilliant as Dr. Otto Octavius. There's just so much going on in this movie that you would think they would get lost, but I gotta commend John Watts for sort of wrangling all of it and being the right guy for the job, whereas Mark Webb seemed to have lost some of his clout and kind of let those films get away. The Amazing Spider-Man trilogy get away from him, even though they never got to the trilogy. It seems like John Watts really has control of the characters, and Marvel kind of lets him do whatever because Sony is mainly in charge. I also really like that Sony hasn't really stuck their grubby little hands into it as much as they did the Garfield sequel and the original. Either way, if you haven't seen the movie, you're missing out because it's a great movie, but you're also one of the 9 people who hasn't, so go do that. Come back, listen to the rest of this video. It's such a really good superhero adventure. Just made me feel great about why we go to the movies. Well done, Marvel, and hats off. Number 6. Listen, for me, it wasn't the best experience that I've ever had with a PTA film, and I would consider this low to mid-tier Paul Thomas Anderson. That being said, low to mid-tier Paul Thomas Anderson is still a hell of a lot better than most directors. One of the biggest surprises was seeing that apparently being an actor and one of, higher caliber sort of runs in the family, because we get Cooper Hoffman, son of Philip Seymour, and, the biggest surprise, Elena Haim from the band Haim in this film, and their chemistry is okay, but really where the film shines is, of course, when with Paul Thomas Anderson doing his thing. There's no grandiosity to the entire film. Really, it's, a film about longing, about understanding, and about growing up and maturing. And I think that Paul Thomas Anderson did a great job of allowing us, the audience, to sort of grow with the 2 characters that were the pulsing center of the film. One of the biggest takeaways for everyone who sees the movie is that, Anderson just understands characters to a micro point that when he crafts them and when he puts them together, he knows before the page even turns where they're going to go. And from step 1 of any of his films, you kind of get that, no matter what the sort of put together situation is. This one is in theaters now. You can check it out. I think it's nationwide now, so you can definitely check it out at the theater near you if it's available. If not, wait for it on streaming. Either way, Licorice Pizza is a big surprise, but also not that big a surprise because of the guy who's behind the camera. Number 5. Netflix and animation have been very, very interesting, and even further still, Sony's animation studio has put out some interesting stuff, including the absolutely incredible Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That whole production team came together this year for a Netflix original animated film called The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and I remember this one was supposed to come out in 2020, and it didn't. And I'll be honest with you, I wish it had, because I think that's the type of movie that year would have needed, and it would have really been able to help Encanto push for a Best Animated Feature. We'll get to that later. Instead, what we get is such a great and loving film about family connection and what it means to feel and be heard by those you love. Katie Mitchell is one of the coolest characters that we get all year, period. She's just a character that I can definitely relate to as a film fan and as a cinephile. And I really feel like, a lot of times when you're a person like that, you're a young person who is an artist who appreciates and loves art and wants to make it. Your family can't quite understand that. And this film gets to the bottom of that. It's such a weird premise. It's about, the film centers on this family who are going through like this electronic biowarfare with an AI who's gone rogue and has decided to activate all of the robots and all of the electronics that exist in the world. And one of the interesting points is that her dad is very much like an anti-electronics, outdoorsy type fellow, whereas she is very clearly a Gen Zer and very clearly a young person who knows how to use technology and how to use it for an advantage. Both of those things come to fruition, and both of those things are utilized to tell the story of this family. There's some incredible moments, including a giant Furby that attacks them. The two little side character robots who are voiced by Fred Armisen and Beck Bennett really are awesome. Olivia Colman makes her voice known as basically what equates to the villain. I was so surprisingly surprised by this, just because of who's involved with it. I knew it was going to be decent, but I just wasn't expecting it to be as funny and as heartfelt and as wonderful as it is. And speaking of Paul Thomas Anderson, his much more talented wife, Maya Rudolph, voices the mother, and Danny McBride's pitch perfect as the dad. I would highly, highly recommend you guys get on Netflix if you have a subscription to that service, even though they keep raising our rates. That's another story for another situation. That you check this out. Abby Jacobson's doing some incredible work as Katie. Check it out when you get a chance. It's worth your time. It's probably the best animated film of the year. Period. Number 4. We're going to start this entry with the words A24, and it won't be the last time we talk about an A24 film on this top 10 list, but it is the first time, and this time we're talking about The Green Knight, a fantastic film by David Lowery, who you may know from A Ghost Story, and Them Bodies Saints. Both really, really good films, really, really well told. In this one, we get the story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Sir Gawain played by the absolutely brilliant and wonderful Dev Patel. We also get an Alicia Vikander sighting, which is always a welcomed addition. What a fantastic and lovingly crafted film. With Lowery, it's always interesting because he's such a director who has an eye for subtle details and for telling things that are highly emotional or emotive in a way where the subtleties of them are hard to digest or hard to figure out. And The Green Knight's a perfect example of that, where there's no bombast to it. Everything is so subtle. Everything is, glances here, glances there. And one of the coolest things is how interesting he tells the hero's tale, and uses the dark fantasy genre as a tool to do that. Because oftentimes, these things tend to fall into one or two different camps, and Lowery has decided he's just going to pitch his tent wherever the hell he wants. The Green Knight doesn't take any prisoners. It's a great film. If you guys get a chance to check it out, it is excellent. I believe it's actually showing on Showtime right now, because Showtime does have an agreement with A24, so I think that one is showing, along with some other great films like Zola, which, if you haven't seen that, it was a contender for our best of 2020 since we saw it then. So we didn't put it on this list, but it would be a highly recommended film from 2020 that you guys should definitely check out as well. But The Green Knight's amazing. Check it out. It was actually one of Shay's top picks of the year. And the only reason it wasn't higher on this list is because the next three movies were both on myself and James's list, and the points just added up higher. Number 3. I did not go into Mike Mills's Come On, Come On expecting to love it as much as I did. I'm humongously huge Joaquin Phoenix fan. But what I got from Come On, Come On was a wonderful tale of an uncle who's taking care of his nephew because his mother, played by Gabby Hoffman in a wonderful supporting role, has to handle business with the child's father. Woody Norman plays a child named Jesse. Scoot McNairy plays the dad. And really what it is it's a father and son tale where the father is not the father, it's instead the uncle, and the son isn't the son, it's the nephew, and the two of them are trying to figure out each other, because obviously he doesn't have any kids and doesn't really understand them, and he's a little boy, and he doesn't understand, like, his uncle at all, because they don't really know too much about each other. They've been kind of estranged for a couple of years. But he takes him to New York with him, and they sort of live together for a little bit, and it's just such a beautiful, sweet, and loving film, and you can tell that Mike Mills, who also wrote this thing, just really loved the characters that he was putting on screen, and it speaks volumes for an auteur like Mills when he crafts the characters and puts together these characters and puts them on screen. And I can tell you right now, Mike Mills has made 4 films that I think are absolutely brilliant. And, this is one of them. 20th Century Woman is fantastic. Thumbsuckers and Beginners are both excellent as well. So for me, Mike Mills is part of this great directing cachet for the contemporary audience that really doesn't do things that are bombastic or over the top. Everything's simple, everything's human based, everything's emotional, everything's got a point to what's happening, and I love how much he gets out of his actors. I thought that Come On, which is again another A24 film, and I think it's the last A24 film on our proper list, was so brilliant. And if you have not seen this, you're missing out. This one is probably playing at a small theater near you if you get a chance to check it out. Come On. And also, it's a great song by the Von Bondies. If you haven't heard that song, Come On by the Von Bondies, check that out. It's a great song, and this is a great movie. I could talk about this movie all day. It's so good. But I digress. We have 2 more films to get to, plus the honorable mentions, so let's do that, yeah? Number 2. Pablo Larraín, you son of a gun, you did it again. You've crafted a story about a woman who is tortured in some way emotionally by the events of her life. In this case, we've got Princess Diana Spencer, the Princess of Wales and former wife of Prince Charles. The events take place over a Christmas weekend, basically, at Buckingham Palace, where Diana has had to deal with several different issues involving the media, particularly the paparazzi, and the royal family, just being overly royal family-ish. I think Kristen Stewart, when I first heard about it, I was sort of skeptical about her portraying this character. Now I think she's the front runner for Best Actress in a Motion Picture this year. She is the heart and soul of this film. She is the catalyst and engine that gets it going. Without her, this film does not exist. And it's very similar to Lorraine's last film, Jackie, which won Natalie Portman an Oscar for her portrayal of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. I think this is in a similar vein, and I believe Lorraine has said that they're going to do one more movie about a tortured woman. And that is going to be very, very interesting to see whom he picks. Because when it comes to stuff like this, Lorraine just tends to get the best out of his actresses. I know that I said earlier that Jackie was his last film, but, I know Emma was in between then, but honestly, no one saw Emma. I haven't even seen it. I missed it at Sundance when it played. Regardless, you guys should check out Spencer. Neon had an incredibly good year this year, yet again. They put out some great films that if you haven't seen, we can talk about it on Twitter. Hit us up at Film Snob Reviews. There's so many great films that Neon put out this year. And they put out one of the worst films as well of the year, which if I was making a list for that, you'd definitely see it on there. And I don't know that anybody would be surprised by us having it on there. I think there'd be an overall surprised that the film was on there in general. I won't mention what film it is, but, I think if you saw my snippet on Twitter about it, you know what film we're talking about here. That being said, back to Spencer. It's awesome. It's an excellent film. It is a little bit hard to get through because it's such a deliberately paced film, and if you're not a fan of that sort of thing, it can really be off-putting. But otherwise, I find it to be a very interesting biopic about a woman who is often misunderstood. I do think that The Princess, which we saw at Sundance, works as a great companion piece to it. Either way. Now that we've gotten the top 9 films out of the way, let's get to the honorable mentions before we hit you with number 1. Here's just a quick hit of some honorable mentions that deserve a little bit of conversation as part of our best films of 2021. To start us off, we obviously have Disney's Encanto, which is taking over the world right now. Great songs, beautiful lyrics about family, and, such a great celebration of the Latin spirit that it tries to represent. I love this movie so much. It's so good. If you have Disney Plus, you should watch it today. Just go watch it now. It's so good. Red Rocket, which is Sean Baker's new film. We've never been the biggest fan. I admit that I've never been the biggest fan of Sean Baker, but Shay loved the movie. James liked the movie. Simon Rex should have had an Oscar nomination here. He's brilliant. He's excellent as a former porn star who moves back to his hometown. Coda from Apple TV Plus. If you don't have that movie on your radar and you haven't seen it, go watch it on Apple TV Plus. It's so brilliant. CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adults, and it's about a young lady played by Emma Jones whose parents are deaf, as is her brother. She's the only one with any sort of hearing. She dreams of being a singer. Now, obviously, her family being, composed of mostly deaf people, they don't understand why that's a goal or how that's a goal or how that's important. But to her it is, and it means everything. Eugenio Derbez plays her, teacher that motivates her to be the best she can. And quite frankly, it does fall into some tropes, but it doesn't really matter. The film's uplifting, the film's excellent, and if you have a chance to watch it on Apple TV Plus, you definitely should. And last, this is more of a personal one for me. It was one of my favorite films of the year that I don't think got any love, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of love here in the honorable mentions section, and that is Natalie Morales' second film, because she also had her debut just based on release date with Plan B. Her second film, Language Lessons, which is just a simple film about her and Mark Duplass. Mark Duplass plays a man whose husband buys him 100 Spanish lessons so he can learn how to speak Spanish. When tragedy strikes, he finds comfort in his teacher, played by Natalie Morales. And it's such a beautiful tale of platonic friendship, of love, what love really is at that level, what it means to trust another person with, your whole heart and your emotions, and what it means to be open with each other, and how to utilize language and talking to others and speaking with people to, heal yourself. It's such a lovely experience to watch this film, and it's on demand now. You guys should it's worth whatever the price is to watch it. I cannot more highly recommend it. Without further ado, that being said, let's get to what I consider the best film of the year. What we consider the best film of the year, and a film you should definitely check out because it's the best film of the year. Hit it. Number 1. It had to be Lin-Manuel Miranda's directorial debut, Tick, Tick, Boom, which for me features the best performance by an actor of the year, with Andrew Garfield's absolutely breathtaking performance as Jonathan Larson, the composer and creator of the smash Broadway hit Rent. Now, this takes place a couple of years before Rent was a huge Broadway success, and tells the story of a struggling playwright and struggling composer in New York City, just trying to get his sci-fi opera off the ground. The songs are amazing. You're not going to tell me 3090 doesn't get stuck in your head after one listen. They're also highly emotional. Robin DeJesus gives one of my favorite supporting performances. Alexander Shipp is excellent. I thought that Lin-Manuel's direction was really good. He makes a lot of really interesting decisions visually. You can tell that there's still a lot of Broadway left in him. Obviously, the music is fantastic because Jonathan Larson wrote the songs. The treatment they give the songs works perfectly, particularly the way that they shoot and put together songs like Why and Come to Your Senses. They're so interestingly shot and so interestingly put together that it makes the overall experience of the film much more beneficial and much more worth it once you get to those moments. Everything here feels earned. Everything here feels not cheap. It doesn't feel like they cheated their way to the solution of the film. I personally love it. It's available on Netflix, and you should watch it and then listen to the soundtrack 86,000 times like I ended up doing it. If you haven't seen our best musicals of the year, obviously, spoiler alert, I think you can tell what number one on that list is as well. Because for me, the best film of the year is Tick, Tick, Boom, and I know that James had it really high on his list as well. So if you want to yell at us about that, you can yell at us about that later. But for us, the best film of the year is Tick, Tick, Boom. Check it out. There's really no reason not to. It's on Netflix, and I know 9,886 million of you have Netflix. So go check it out. It's so totally worth it. And I will be rooting for Andrew Garfield to win Best Actor because he deserves it. Because he gives the best performance by an actor all year. Alongside his performances in both Spider-Man, which is on this list, and a film that everybody should check out because it's on HBO Max right now, the Tammy Faye biopic, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which is really, really good. And that's it. That's the list for 2021. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What's on your top 10? There's a comment section below for you to utilize. If you want to tell us what exactly you think are the best films of 2021, use it because it's going to be awesome. And you know, I love having those sort of discussions. Other than that, if you guys want to get a hold of us, we are on social medias at Film Snob Reviews. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. Follow us there. We'd love to have the conversations with you. And make sure you're liking and subscribing this video because it helps us out a bunch. Thumbs ups, comments, they all help us out to reach our goal to get to 1,000 followers. That way that YouTube can finally start giving us money. Yes, we want money. And if you want to give us money more directly, you can always join our Patreon where we will give you whatever you want, including a puppy. I promise. Either way, that's been it. That's been the top 10 films of 2021. If you want to see us do a worst list, let us know because honestly, I hadn't really planned to do a worst list. I don't really want to spread that kind of negativity, but if you guys want to hear it and you guys really want to see me eviscerate some films, just let us know. One of the biggest advantages you can do, of the worst list is that I get to talk a bunch of crap about movies that suck. Now, if you also want to join our Discord, join the conversation, go ahead and do it. Let us know. Either way, we love you. We'll see you later. This is for William for Film Snob Reviews, and we'll see you next time.